Good morning. I'd like to
Morning.
call the Ways and Means Committee meeting of June 16th to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd,
Present.
Alderman Vaccaro,
Present.
Alderwoman Howard,
Present.
Alderwoman Spencer,
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd, Alderman Muhammad,
Here.
Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Navarro,
Here.
Alderwoman Middlebrook, Alderwoman Evans,
Present.
Chairwoman Davis,
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Present.
9 present, you have quorum.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve our minutes for June 10th.
So moved.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt our minutes of June 10th. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro,
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd, Alderman Muhammad,
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Navarro,
Aye.
Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans,
Aye.
Chairwoman Davis.
Aye.
Nine aye votes.
Thank you. We've adopted our minutes for June 10th, 2021. We have board bills for review today, and all of them are from Bi-State Development. And what I'd like to do is to allow our CEO, Talby Roach, to conduct the process for these meetings. Mr. Roach?
Madam Chair, good morning, and good morning to the committee. I sure appreciate the time.
Thank you.
So we do have a very brief slide presentation that we can show. We can share our screen. I will start with the presentation, but I will hand off to my CFO, Ms. Tammy Fulbright, who is also on, and I'll start on the first couple of slides, and then we'll move from there.
Thank you.
The purpose being very brief so that we do have time for the committee to ask any specific questions. And if you'd allow me, I certainly am, these are very complicated budgets, and I'm happy to meet with any individual member of the committee if there's some individual deep dive that they'd like to get into these numbers. But of course, here we are. Good morning, and we are talking about the new fiscal year, so fiscal year 2022. This is now my third fiscal year that underneath my leadership here at Bi-State. And so this is my favorite chart. So my favorite chart being a simplification of where our trend is. And of course, in transit and of course, in how cities are moving economically, a very important aspect is to try to see what is our trend over time. And this illustrates that. If you notice the blue box, that's marking fiscal year 2019. What we were headed on was really an unsustainable fiscal trend. As you see in the prior years, we were headed in an angle that would not allow us to operate. Obviously, in a public agency, what we need to do is operate within the revenues that we generate. And that's through a combination of tax revenue and of course, fair revenue. And so what we tried to do was flatten our budget out, and you're seeing that in this kind of a trend line moving from fiscal year 2019 to 2020 to 2021, and now 2022 in this appropriation ask. And you can see the red and blue lines representing 2% growth or 3% growth. And as you can see, we are staying underneath that. Of course, this is critically important for a city and county and Illinois County in a system like us, so that we essentially exist within the means of the growth trajectory that we have economically. And so I'm very proud to say that we have been accomplishing that and supporting what is the very important service throughout the region. So now we're going to get to the details. So Tammy, can you take over and move us to the next slide?
Yes, good morning. So I'm going to start out with this first column. And the reason, we named it COVID impacted budget for 2021 was because we had actually completed our budget in March. COVID was unraveling, so we very quickly had to revise our budget for 21. And this is the COVID impacted budget we came up with. Primarily, it's been adjusted for revenue. And so when you look at the passenger revenue line item in that first column, that 23 million represents a 40% reduction. At the time, that's what we were projecting. The grant, sales tax, and contractual line item, that's where the sales tax comes in. That's also where we're representing our CARES funding. So we're really just, what we did last year was we reduced our appropriation amount by 20% on the city and the county, and then basically changed the pot of money we were pulling that from, so it came from CARES funding to cover that shortfall. Then for interest income, the Fed lowered rates, so we adjusted that by about 2.5 million. And in this first column, the only other thing I really want to bring attention to is the other operating expense line item of 14.8 million. And that's where we added $7.5 million for COVID related expenses that were also covered by the additional CARES funding on the second line item under revenue, that grant, sales tax, and contractual revenue. So for budget 22, what we're showing and projecting our budget to be for 22 is $337.5 million. And the passenger revenue represents a 43% reduction. Within that grant, sales tax, and contractual line item, instead of a 20% reduction, we are projecting a 10% reduction for sales tax. So the CARES funding will cover that reduction. We made that adjustment there. And interest income, we see some flux there, so we increased that by 1.3 million. And then as we get into the expenses, you'll see that we're down by about by 5 million. And that's primarily due to service not being back to the full 100%. And so that's where you're seeing adjustments for wages and benefits there. Related to services, you'll see the biggest impact here, which is in the past, our St. Louis County police contract has been within our budget and sometimes without our budget, not within our budget, but we are going back to putting that as part of our budget each year. And so that is represented in that 8 million by approximately $5.3 million. We also added an additional $1 million for service, security service. And we made some adjustments and did some outsourcing related to ADA. And so we have more service dollars represented there, but we had some reduction in wages and benefits slightly. And then for fuel and lubrication, that's really where we see the impact for diesel fuel. And that's at $1.6 million decline, also due to services and parts, supplies, we found some savings there of about $600,000. And again, that other operating expense line item, the reason for such a big change there is because that's where we showed the COVID expense just to have an expense dollar amount within the budget. So moving on to the next slide, this slide is really comparing apples to apples. So when we're just looking at our operating expense from the COVID impacted budget of 317 million to the 22 budget of 312 million, you can see that what that actual increase amount there is 0.9% once you reduce out the COVID related expense. Sorry, I have to adjust my screen really quickly. Oops. messed up. Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to bring attention to was the St. Louis County police contract again, the $5.2 million there. So when we adjust that budget line item, we're comparing it to the 303 million represented in 21 to the 307 million shown in 22. And then finally, we have a pie chart kind of breaking out our expenses there to really get into, primarily our expenses is related to wages and benefits of 205 million and in services of 47.9 million. And that's primarily where you see our security and police contracts and those sorts of things is within those service numbers.
I just wanted to add the point on the pie chart. As you can see, our dominant cost today and will be tomorrow and 10 years from now is really wages and benefits. We are able to secure, of course, capital funding for our rolling stock and, for instance, although we're talking about our operating budget, but this is by going through an operating budget. Then our job is, of course, to attract the federal funding for other things, for instance, in rolling stock and, for instance, if there's system expansion and so on. But the primary driver of our overall costs on operating are our operators. And I just want to note, in the difficulty of COVID, our operators showed up and did their job every single day. They should be admired for that. I would really appreciate the recognition of that from the Ways and Means members. This has been an extraordinary year, and my folks still showed up for those 4 a.m. shifts to run and move St. Louis in a very difficult environment. They are the real folks that we support, not only the jobs that are the 2,400 employees that work for Bi-State, but also the folks that they're moving around. I would also note that one of the characteristics that we're starting to see regionally, I think we noted that we're applying a 10% discount on having to do with sales tax so that we are fulfilling our statutory budget requirement to you. Obviously, there's going to be some oscillation in that number. And if, for instance, the city runs, let's say, closer to 14, 15%, what we'll use the CARES funding over this upcoming fiscal year to make up for that deficit, okay? But we have to fulfill the statutory requirement for me to come into you with a set budget, okay? But we're definitely seeing a slower economic recovery in the city center than we are in the county, okay? Both municipal areas are required to have the same discount from a budgetary standpoint. However, it's very likely that the city will lag slightly, and we will use CARES funding to make up that delta. But I just wanted to bring up that distinction. Tammy, if you could continue.
Okay, so this is the appropriation request breakdown, and so the sales taxes that are supporting it are shown: the Transportation Trust Fund tax and the Prop M1 quarter-cent and Prop M2 quarter-cent. So in 21, the actual appropriation request before COVID and any adjustments was 41.6 million. So we applied the 20% reduction or discount, and so our request was for 33.3 million. So as we mentioned in 22, we kept the sales tax level as to where it had been, and we're asking for 37.4 million with a 10% reduction or discount. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have related to these details that we've presented, or other questions you may have related to the budget.
Yeah, and it is a very complicated budget, but we try to keep it very brief. I know you all see a lot of numbers in front of you, but we want to be respectful of the committee's time. And of course, I'm happy to field any questions on this, service-related questions, or go back to any specific slides. Madam Chair, what we'll do is just pause here and see if you want us to field some questions from the members.
Thank you very much. One of the things I should have done in the beginning was share with the committee that President Reed was not available to come and sponsor his bills today, but I am doing it for him as the co-sponsor because he asked me to. If the sponsor does not ask you to, the bills would not be heard. So I appreciate you giving us an overview of the budget. I think that's critical for all of us to have as much inside information as for understanding. So what I'd like to do is I'd like for you to present Board Bill number 53. And as we go through your board bills that are before us today, we will have the committee ask questions.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, the specific legislation.
Yes.
And
Do you have it before you?
I do not. I don't have the specific text. We do use the specific. We give the draft bill to the secretary, and then we leave it to the committees to go through the individual legislation. I believe that the committee has that in hand.
I can move it forward for you.
Very good. I'm sorry. I just wanted to be sure.
That's okay.
Exactly.
That's okay. So for Board Bill number 53, this is a deposit of funds received from sales tax into the City Public Transit Sales Tax Trust Fund. And this amount, and this is going into account 1. This amount is $10,523,000. All of our committee members have the board bills before them as well. And what I'd like to do is ask if you have any additional information in explaining the Sales Tax Trust Fund account 1 before we start asking questions.
I do not. This comes, obviously, there's 2 tranches of individual sales tax, and the bills are appropriately separated for that. I believe the city budget director is also on the call, Madam Chair, and what we do is, from our standpoint, when we get to the machinations of the individual legislation, and I have the additional complication in the county, is we try to follow the lead of the individual municipality to be sure that it is worded appropriately and in the normal procedures, whether it be city or county. But to comment on it specifically, there's several different tranches that are dedicated, in this case, to the operating. They are separate from the capital expansion, which we're not here to talk about today. These are strictly oriented towards operating. And
You're absolutely right. All this is pertaining to operating. So Paul Payne is available if any of our committee people have any questions that need to be answered. So let's start with questions. Alderman Boyd.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, Mr. Roach. I don't have any questions. I would like to make a comment that I've been building a better relationship with Metro, and we worked collaboratively on a project to do bus shelters and benches along MLK, and it's really working out well. We use that opportunity also to do some other traffic calming measures with some bump outs and a couple of medians. So Martin Luther King is looking pretty good as far as transit these days. So I just want to thank you for the partnership.
All right.
Thank you, Alderman.
Okay,
Alderman Vaccaro.
Yeah, I do, actually. And it's the same concern I have every time we all meet. The trash that accumulates at each bus stop, especially where there is shelters, but even when there's not, and I know in the past I thought that they paid refuge, the city refuge, to pick that up. What's going on with the trash at these bus stops? I mean, along Hampton Avenue, it gets pretty bad. And there's some cans out there and they're just overflowing.
Okay. Alderman Vaccaro, we are tasked with running transit service, just like just like the streets department is tasked with running the streets, and then of course the refuse division is tasked with running refuse. So it's we do go through some efforts with taking care of refuse associated with what goes through our system. It's certainly is easier to do on Metrolink, but when we run, for instance, I run a system with 425 buses. We're not tasked with overall doing refuse. So I certainly sympathize with the issue. We do supplement and take care of some of those issues, but I have to be very careful about mission creep. I mean, this is a very specific tasking for me to concentrate on transit. If one of the dangers to an organization like this is that then through a budget process like this, we're asked about something that we're not tasked with, and then we end up assuming the roles of other municipal agencies, whether that be trash pickup or policing or any of those issues.
Well, but I know now in the county, they don't give you all the money that's collected, and we're not obligated to do the same. And if I remember, I think we held back a certain amount a couple of years ago to give to refuge to pick that up. It's important that we keep our neighborhoods clean.
It is. It's also important we run transit appropriately through all these neighborhoods. And it's appropriate that all of our neighborhoods be safe with policing and everything else. What I can't do is expand what our obligation is to our municipal partners based on individual pieces. I'm just making the point to you that we try to do a fair allocation as far as the expenses are concerned between city and county. As a matter of fact, under this proposal right now, there is a 10% discount applied to the sales tax funding on the city and county. As I mentioned, the city is running far in excess of that right now. I welcome the budget director to weigh in on that. I think the city is running closer to a 20%. We will use the CARES funding to make up for that. In the county, it's the opposite. It'll probably be running close to 9%. So we have created a model that deals with a fair allocation across the different economic impacts. So in that case, actually, the city is getting more of a benefit, technically, of CARES funding. But it needs to be that way because that's where the economics are right now, folks. I am challenged with running a system across these municipal boundaries and trying to do a system that has a fair allocation. And so I've attempted to do this.
Well, again, so Paul, I guess you're there.
Director Payne, could you share with us the dollar amount?
Yes, I'm here.
That we provide to refuge to take care of the trash problem?
No, not so much. I mean, out of the metro money, and I remember in the past, we've taken a certain amount of that. And I don't see it in this budget, which means that the bus stops will go unpicked up because
there's a special fund, I believe.
There's a special fund that was set up.
Yes.
About 5 years ago.
Yeah, and it's about $200,000 per year trash collection fees for Metro. It's in Fund 1116. It's in your budget estimates, but yeah, it is included in the budget.
So it is in the budget. So refuge is responsible for picking up the trash at the bus stops. I just want to be clear.
They have an appropriation for that. Yes.
Yes, sir.
And the budget is $245,000 in FY22.
Okay, and that goes to refuge, and so they're responsible.
Yes, sir.
The other only okay. So I know, when I get a hold of refuge to say, hey, especially along Hampton. I mean, right there outside Walgreens, it, you know, it looks terrible. And then I guess my other questions to Bi-State is security on Metrolink, and it seems like you've basically said you're separate from that too.
No.
Well, you said you're not responsible for, you don't want to overlap somebody else's jurisdiction.
No, that's not at all what I said.
Okay, maybe I misinterpreted.
Well, and I apologize if I misstated it somehow. I was simply making the point that we have to concentrate on what the delivery of our services are, and that our appropriation needs to be dedicated to the specific result of those services. That is my statutory obligation. So, so as
Sergeant Duke's going to pick up the resolution, so he'll bring it up.
So,
I
I
apologize.
mean, you know, so, you know, security on the Metrolink, then who are you in control of that?
Yes, we are. So, and we, for instance, are under contract since I have been at the CEO's position. We have completely renovated our security contracts. We are under contract with all 3 different municipal partners. That includes a rigorous contract with the city of St. Louis. These contracts are rigorous and very strong. And then that is layered with our own internal security. So that is an unarmed, more customer-focused security force. And they work hand in hand with our full police officers. We right now are offering an individual tour of how our new renovated security system is working. I offer that to any one of the members of the Ways and Means Committee. That would be led by the commander, our general manager of Metrolink Security, who is Kevin Scott, who's done a very good job of renovating all of those relationships and how we take care of security on Metrolink. I think we've seen a discernible increase in how security is going, but I want to stress that we are not finished. Okay, we will never be finished essentially with security. We are challenged by the same challenges of an urban area that actually Madam Chair was talking about earlier. It's constantly a concern and a worry, but we are trying to be responsive, and I encourage everybody to get out on the system and perhaps take Mr. Scott up on his invitation to tour the system and seeing what we are actually doing. But the primary part of that is strengthening the partnerships we have with our professional police departments in the joint task force, which includes the county, the city, and St. Clair County, and then supplemented by the sheriff's department in the city. We have regular and rigorous meetings where we go over security, look at data, and look at where we need to look at policing on the system.
And then my only last thing, and I agree, you got great employees. I also know a few years back, they went several years without a contract for the bus drivers. Or how are we doing on contracts now with workers? Is there any open contracts, or are we settled with everything?
There are not. I'm very proud to say that we also were able to get under contract with all of our unions and are currently in that situation. We last signed a 3-year contract with our biggest union, which of course is 788. And we are in the midst of that contract right now, but we've already started negotiations on the next tranche so that we are moving forward. We have good union employees who work for us here at Bi-State. We're proud of that. We're proud of the work they put in, and being under contract and paying fair wages is, of course, one of the things that I'm very proud to say that we do.
Okay. So all your union contracts are settled. You're saying you're in negotiations with one.
Just negotiations for the next contract. We are under contract in every single circumstance. None of them are holdovers. We are in the midst of our latest contract, which was a 3-year contract for 788.
Well, that's good. That's probably why they all show up. They're well paid.
Yes,
and they're good people.
They are.
Anyway, Thank you. These, well, I mean, I got some answered, you know, so I know to jump on refuge about trash pickup because sometimes I get that it's not their responsibility, and they're going to need to provide some sort of a regular route pickup, which, you know, now I know who to jump on about that, or at least talk to. Anyway, Madam Chair, thank you so much for putting up with me and my question.
All right, thank you, sir. Alderwoman Howard.
All questions have been asked and answered. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming today, Mr. Roach. I appreciate your presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Roach, for being here today. Broadly speaking, so we have 3 bills for us that Metro
We're having
from
problems hearing you.
hot. See. Hear me better now?
A little bit. You still got echo.
Can you hear me better now?
There you go.
Madam Chair. Okay.
It's better
Thank you,
now.
Madam
Thank
Chair.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Roach, for being here today. Thank you for identifying that. My apologies. I was using a headset. It was apparently not. The microphone isn't as good as the earpiece. Broadly speaking, we have 3 bills before us. And those 3 bills create the funding that Metro needs to operate. Is that kind of a summary of what we're doing here today, the 53, 54, 55 bills?
Yes.
The way I read them, 53 is a bill that provides for $10 million. 54 is a $20 million bill, and 55 is another $10 million bill. Collectively, that's $40 million, a little over. If I look back at the presentation, slide 6 has a request, this is a sales tax request of 41.6 million adjusted for CARES Act, 41.6 with a reduction of 10%, 37. The figures here don't seem to completely add up to me. I'm not sure what the 10% reduction means. I know you talked about it a little bit. Can you help me understand these 3 bills, where they fit in with what you're asking for from the city's sales tax fund?
Tammy, if you will.
Yes. So what we do, so the actual bills, what we do every year is we put in, so we started out with a 10% reduction. So that is the amount that you're seeing in the presentation that we presented. And then in the bills themselves, we put in a 10% amount in case the money that comes in is over the original ask. And that's about what we've done in the past, because then otherwise we have to come back and ask for any additional funding that comes in. And so that's how the bills are written. And that's what that 10% makes up. The discount that we discussed in the presentation, that discount is really a discount based on where sales tax is coming in. And as Mr. Roach mentioned, in the city, it's not really coming in at that amount, that a discounted amount, but we're projecting and hoping that it will. It's probably more like 20%. And those discounts are covered with CARES funding.
So the CARES funding would cover the discounts. And if that does cover, then where do those additional, that 10% or 20% of funds go? Do they go back to the city?
So the additional, so if it would come in higher, then we would get a higher amount from the city. And at that point, I think we would need to have the discussion as to how those funds would be handled.
So the CARES Act funding, this is anticipation of the CARES Act funding going directly to Metro from the federal government. Is that correct?
Right.
Or are these pots of CARES Act funding coming from the city and county going to BITE?
The CARES Act portion would be reimbursed from the FTA, and we ask for that reimbursement. So they're holding funds, and then we make the request for it as needed.
And are there funds coming from the City and County CARES Act fund going to bi-state as well?
Both, yes, we're getting CARES funding for both discounts from the county and the city as needed.
I'm sorry if I can interrupt. So actually, I think the answer to that actually is no. This is, we are not using the CARES Act that goes directly to the municipal interest. None of that is within this budget at all, okay? The only, and there's really three tranches to be specific. There's what is called CARES, the second tranche being CRISA, and the third being ARP, okay? What we do, Alderwoman Spencer, is if, for instance, as an example, let's say we are pushing that CARES money to the out years, all right? Because it has to be dedicated and only spent, at least the money that we get directly in CARES funding, which is we get it directly through our partners at FTA. We can only spend that money on transit, okay? So what we're doing and our tasking is to keep the system stable through the out years so that we are able to recover from a ridership standpoint and from an economic standpoint. So any money we don't use this year, we hold out to the out years so that we are not, for instance, back in here in 2 fiscal years or in the next fiscal year asking any of our municipal partners for more money. So what we do with those federal dollars that are not used is we push them to the out years. So I would anticipate next year when we come to you, we will readjust as to what is the anticipated law still reduction in sales tax. Let's say it's 6 or 7%, and we'll use our CARES funding to push that out over time. We believe that this is a more reasonable financial strategy. It also ensures to our partners, our federal partners at FTA, that all of the dollars that are specific sent to us through 5307 funding through FTA are dedicated only to transit expenses. So that in general summary is how we are handling those dollars.
Okay, so the CARES Act funding going to the city county is not going into bi-state. None of it's being requested or going in that direction. The 41.6 million is the accumulation of those 3 bills put together. Am I understanding that correctly? And the 37 million with the 10% reduction is, how does that fit? So we're going to be handing over 41.6 million and then hoping that we get some of it back in return?
No.
With
if for instance, what Tammy was referencing is, let's say the opposite occurred. If, for instance, we were applying a reduction and let's say for some reason sales tax moved up, okay, where in other words, the pendulum ran the opposite way, we would have the obligation to have that discussion with the city because those are city revenues. But we're not anticipating that. But just to be fair, we have to do both. Part of the reason we have the statutory obligation to come in and put a projection together and give you an idea of where our budget is. However, I cannot guarantee what I think the city sales tax will be 2 months from now, 4 months from now, 6 months from now. Just can't do it. If I could, I would probably be working in New York in another industry. But we do our best, and we work with the city and county and St. Clair County budget team to try to see where the projections are going and be as reasonable as we can and give a general idea of where that is. We do then go through both an internal and external audit processes to be sure that these projections are reasonable with our municipal partners. And we have that obligation to FTA as well.
So if I'm understanding correctly, shouldn't the money that we're allocating to you all be with that 10% reduction? Is it projection of the sales tax after COVID, or am I misunderstanding, Mr. Roach?
So I don't want to say that you're misunderstanding. I assume you are.
It's okay if I mean, I just wanted for clarity here. I mean, I could be misunderstanding here. So
on that,
in other words,
on that last slide, okay, the FY 2020 request, and see what we're trying to do. I apologize for the complication, but we're trying to also demonstrate to you that we're keeping a level expenditure from 21 to 22, so of course that our costs are not spinning out of control. So in order to get that comparison there, we're trying to show what it would be if CARES wasn't, if COVID did not happen, okay? So our FY 2022 request, okay, the 41.6 million, okay, is what we show when we showed that on our last slide. If you then apply the 10% reduction adjusted for CARES, what we expect to get out of sales tax right now is $37.4 million, okay? But we will ask in the legislation for that so that we're consistent over time, okay? And we're trying to be as upfront as possible to inform you all as our overseers that how we are using CARES in that calculation, and also what is the current discount, our best guess at the current discount over time. I hope I answered.
So you're asking, 41.6 million is the request, recognizing that the expectation of sales tax will be 10% less because of COVID and will be accounted for with CARES Act funding, direct relief from the federal government to by state.
That is accurate.
Okay. So when the adjustment is going to come in as the sales tax is coming in at a reduced rate to the city, do we need to have further hearings to adjust this legislation to account for that? How will that work from a budgetary perspective? If we're not going to be actually giving you the 10 million, 20 million, 10 million, and it's going to look more like 9 million, 18 million, 9 million, do we need to continue? Are we expecting to have further hearings to adjust?
No. And the reason being is that we are going to preserve those federal dollars for the out years. Okay. And the obligation I have to you and to the federal government is that the dollars we don't use this year. So we're plugging in our CARES funding in two primary ways. The delta between the sales tax and the effect of the negative on the sales tax, that's one. And number two is the reduction in revenue from fares. Okay, those are the only areas that we're using it right now. And so what we don't use this year is my point, Alderwoman, is that we would push it to the out years. So then we would have more dollars to continue the stability of the system through FY23 or FY24. Right now, under these projections, we would be able to kind of hold a line on what we're asking from all of our municipal partners, and where we can then hopefully gain stability of the system. So what I've asked is to try to create that stability over a 5-year period, because quite frankly, it's not realistic for us to think that we'll recover both in sales tax and fare revenue within any kind of a shorter period of time. I don't think that's responsible from a fiscal standpoint. So we are effectively pushing those federal dollars to be sure that we are stable over a longer period of time, so we don't burden our municipal partners, especially in these out years.
Okay. I think this is starting to make some level of sense from a financial perspective. I don't want to take too much more of the committee's time here, but I do want to go back to the alderman from the 23rd's point about garbage collection at the sites and share my concerns about that as well. We used to have a contract where the city was responsible for picking up the garbage and was compensated for such. And I apologize, I got kicked out a little bit. The internet got a little unstable on me during that discussion. Is that something that's still in place? Who is actually responsible for collection of garbage?
So as
At
so it is still in the current budget. It is and I apologize, I don't know every number right off the top of my head, but I believe there's $245,000 within our current budget appropriation ask that is specific. That is money that goes from by state to the refuse division. And I think that's the best way to handle it at this point.
So when we have complaints about stations with a lot of refuse building up, that is a complaint that needs to go to the refuse department and not to by state. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. And but it's still certainly a concern. I apologize. I didn't mean to dodge that issue because that is important to us. It is. It absolutely is. I'm just trying to have each individual partner appropriately deal with it. And so correct, we have a individual line item that pays the refuge division for that, and that would be the appropriate place to deal with it.
Okay, so we may need to, it becomes such an issue and really has been a major issue throughout the city in the 23rd ward, as Alderman Vaquero pointed out, but in the 20th ward and in almost every area where there's bus stops, and it really reflects negatively on all of us, especially if there's that collaboration between us.
Let me just commit to following up.
It's been some time since we've had a real understanding of the two systems and how the city and the county both contribute. And you mentioned on the front end that, the city contributes more because that's where the economics are. I don't want to take too much more of the committee's time here today on this, but it would be helpful to have that breakdown. I haven't seen it for a couple of years now, and I do think it's interesting. I do recognize there's just a difference there, and it would be helpful to have that information for the committee. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Roach. And actually, per your request earlier, I do want to share your recognition of your employees. I see them on a very regular basis. They were masked up and working through a very dangerous time, and that is to be commended. I commend all of your staff for continuing to serve our general public during some very, very, very scary times and dangerous times to be on this planet as a human being.
All right. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Boyd. Oh.
She's waving, but
I know she must still be on mute. Okay, we're gonna move on.
she's showing she's not on mute.
Audio issues. I wonder if she can select a different audio source.
That's probably, yeah. We can come back to her. Alderman Muhammad.
Hey, I have no questions, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. And thank you to the CEO.
Okay. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderwoman Navarro.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you, Mr. Roach and Ms. Fulbright, for being here with us this morning and walking us through all of these numbers. And I too want to just say thank you to all of your staff and the incredible job that they have done this past year. And if there are other ways that we can recognize them, acknowledge them, please let me know. I've always thought, I don't know if we have like a transit drivers day at the Cardinals game or something, but I feel like we should, and one for refuse drivers as well, and all sorts of city employees who have been putting themselves at risk. I think we should do it every year too, not just COVID. But yes, if there's any other way that I can pass along my gratitude, please let me know. I had similar questions to Alderwoman Spencer, and I don't want to make you go through all that again. I just want to make sure these three bills add up to $41,156,000. That's the request. I mean, that's the total in there, which I think that's the, so you take the $41.6 million with a 10% reduction, right? And that's how we're getting there. So I don't totally understand where the 37 million, that's like another 10% reduction off of that one. But I just want to make sure we're all clear that these three bills add up to 41,156,000, right? Or am I misreading the bills? Okay. And that's the number that you are looking for. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I apologize. So I'm just trying to, and we're notifying where we think that it will be. Now, there's always some variation having to do with what actually ends up being collected, and there is some normal essentially cushion to account for the difference that we do have in sales tax. So we have several things working here, and I apologize for the complication. We try to be as accurate as we can. And I'm happy to, I've made a few notes on some important details that you all want individually, and I will follow up on that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that the number that's in these three bills reflects the numbers that you all want. And I think I was just hearing this 41.6 million and not seeing that number in our total here, but if that's good. All right, that's the answer I needed. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any questions, just a short comment. I would like to know about the trash cans because the second ward does not have any. I have residents that set trash cans out and empty them themselves. All of the trash cans were picked up at the bus stops. So I would like to know how we can get some in the second ward. Again, there are none. One person did bring a blue trash can from another part of St. Louis and set it at a bus stop that's in front of her home. So that's all I have. Thank you so much. And thanks to all your workers.
Thank you. And I'll be happy to talk to operating staff and follow up on the trash issue. Again, it is a relationship we have with the Refuge Division. I apologize. I just don't know about it this morning, but I will look into it and respond to the committee so that we have some contact points, especially where a proper complaint should be registered, or for instance, Alderwoman, as you mentioned, where perhaps an additional trash can should be put. So certainly we have an appropriation for it in this budget, so we should certainly get the service for it. So I will work on it.
Okay, it might be helpful if someone could put the community outreach person for your system in the chat. I do know that she regularly reaches out to the alderpersons. Is it Maureen?
Yes, Maureen. Maureen.
Yes, she regularly reaches out to us to see if we need anything. Mm-hmm. But I know that this has been a difficult last year, and there were a lot of things going on where bus routes were being dealt with and everything else, and she was handling that as well. But please put her information in the chat for us, and we can reach out to her and get some direct opportunities to have those trash cans put in the right places. Because that's included in that small budget that we have.
Did you fix that hole?
You know you're not muted. Okay, so let me go back to Alderwoman Pam Boyd. Did you have any questions?
I'm so sorry. I mean, I am just having all kind of challenges with technology. I didn't have any questions. The trash cans, we have researched those before, but we were told that they would only put trash cans at bus stops if the businesses would monitor them and empty them. So which way do we go?
No. It's not necessary, but it would be helpful.
Okay, because I was even told that they would even put a business name if they want to adopt that bus stop. And so that's the question I was asking. And then two, I did know that Refuge would empty them, but I didn't know if they were supposed to empty all the trash on every bus stop or
Yeah.
how is that managed?
Every bus stop. You're correct. Every bus stop.
Okay, all right. That's what I just wanted to make sure. And I think what happens, a lot of older people are seeing a lot of bus stops that are not managed, and that's where the challenges come in for us. And so we were just trying to get clarity. So we do know now that refuge is responsible, and then 2, by state supplies the trash cans at the bus stops, correct?
The opportunity for the trash cans come through the same process.
Okay.
So Maureen is the person to talk to, and she will work through the process, okay?
All right, thank you.
All right. Alderwoman Evans?
Good morning, Madam Chair and Mr. Roach. I just need a little clarity. After Alderwoman Boyd made her comment, I got a little bit confused. Who supplies the trash cans?
It is a process that has to be worked through with the refuge department. And so there is a contact from by state who keeps track of all of this. And Maureen's last name is Williams, I believe.
Yes, it is. It's Maureen Williams is in my marketing and communications division.
Right.
And yes, we have, and we worked through an appropriation to go, which is in this budget of $240 million. I mean, $240,000 to that is sent over to the refuge division for that support to empty some of these specific trash cans. And then we have, it would be, I can't say that we're going to put a trash can at every single stop, because in the city of St. Louis, there's, I don't know, would be 1,100 at least stops. So, but it certainly is something we could work on. And for instance, Miss Williams would be one of the appropriate contact points, and we can work on that.
Yeah, and I'll share with all the persons who have concerns what I've chosen to do over the years. If there is a specific stop that's extremely busy, I will use my capital funds and buy a larger receptacle than what is normally put there. I also have some partnerships with businesses who take care of whole blocks. So usually within those blocks, they'll take care of the trash receptacle for the bus stop and keeping that block clean, all of that. And so there are many ways for us to approach this, but what we have in place now, as you know, with the refuge department, we're short on staff, and it's difficult to get it done as it should be.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Mr. Roach.
Did you have some more questions?
No, that's it.
All right, thank you. Let's go back here. Alderman Boyd, did you say you had another question?
No, Madam Chair, I have no questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I see that Alderwoman Rice has a couple of questions. Please go right ahead.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairwoman. I appreciate the opportunity off the committee to ask a question. Mr. Roach, thank you so much for presenting today. I did have a question. There was a report with Fox 2 about some new security measures, potentially turnstiles, that kind of thing. Could you talk a little about sort of new vision for security, if there are any increases coming, and where that funding would be coming from?
Sure. So one of the things that I mentioned early is safety and security. Just like the city, we're always challenged with operating a transit system in an urban environment. Just like our city has changed, the movement of crime and so on has changed. So we should never be static. We have gone through a significant change in security over the past three years with a rigorous layered security program dealing with strengthening our partnerships with our professional police partners and changing our transit security specialists. However, we still need to then, in the challenge of COVID, look, let's be realistic. Right now, system-wide, we are down on Metrolink and Metrobus nearly 50% in ridership, and that's a devastating effect. If over these next several years we want to look at attracting some of those riders back to the system, we need to pay attention to what is the perception of the system. And so my point is that sometimes we need to think of and look at these systems in a new way. And so I'm just not taking off the table that we may look at including barriers on the system. That was not how it was originally conceived. And I would be seeking other resources to pay for that. I do not anticipate coming to the city for the funding associated with that. I have been working on what would be possible resources for that, but I'm also vetting this through to see that we have both the support from the community and the support from our partners. So all I'm saying is that the door is not closed on that kind of an area, because we should never be stuck, so to speak, because it is very important to look. One of the taskings that you would challenge me with is how are we attracting that 50% of ridership that we've lost due to COVID? Well, one of the things is we have to have a system that is safe, clean, and secure, both not only in the reality, but what is the perception of the system. And so I'm just saying that we are open to looking at our system in new ways to be more rigorous associated with security. The next actually phase that we are doing no matter what is, for instance, an upgrade in the video capabilities of the system throughout, both on bus and rail. Obviously, as we replace our rolling stock, it's a little easier to do, as most of these camera systems are embedded in the new buses and trains. And by the way, I want to note that we are putting a new fully electric bus on the Grand Line, and we will be cutting a ribbon on that. I think all of you have been invited to that. I sure would appreciate some attendance on the 29th at 10 a.m. Sorry about that gratuitous plug. But the point is that we should always be looking at how we can add technology to these systems. As our city changes, our transit system should change. And all I was saying on the Fox interview is that I don't want to be stuck into old ideas, because we need to look at what are the things we can do to aggressively evolve and change so that we're building a better transit system and a better city.
Sure. Well, I very much appreciate your comments and the clarifications that came from that. And I very much appreciate the electric bus that will be coming down Grand. All of the riders that live in the 8th will be thrilled, and folks who live along the line also. I imagine the effects for people who live along the Grand Line, not having the emissions and the noise that comes from the regular bus, I think will be significant, and for the environment in general. So thank you for that. And thank you for Bi-State being such a great partner in the region as we work towards, transit and mobility for our citizens. And I would add, a very strong number 4 to your list, that the buses are where people need them to be, and that they go where people need them to go. Right. And I think, the more we hear talk about bus rapid transit and expansion of Metrolink and those kinds of things, there's a deep hunger for folks in my generation and young professionals to be able to use those types of methods. There are lots of people who would like to go carless or would like to participate in a cleaner environment by doing those things. And so hopefully we can connect those dots, right? That our transit system becomes a thing that more of our citizens use for wherever they need to get to, work or play or groceries or whatever it is. So thank you so much for all that you're doing, and thank you for the clarification on the security piece. I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And that I'm going to comment on that because you have a new position there, at Bi-State, and I'm bad on last names, but Lisa, I've had a chance to meet with her. I appreciate, this position and where it's going, and I think that we're going to be able to come up with some innovative things for our region. So I do appreciate that.
Yes, that's Miss Lisa Cagle. And
Okay.
he is, for instance, we refer to as an innovative specialist. And we're trying to look at some of these new technologies. And right, Alderwoman Rice brings up a very good point. Yes, Metrolink is the shiny object and it gets a lot of attention, but really the majority of our transit system is represented by buses. Remember, I have 425 buses on our fleet and only 87 light rail vehicles. The bus system is absolutely critical. And I would note the Grand Line, that major north-south line, that's my #1 bus line, accounts for the majority of the ridership associated with the bus system. It's absolutely critical to getting out to those individuals in those communities. So thank you for that shout out.
Yeah. And please don't think that the general public is stuck on Metrolink. We want transit, and our bus system works well. So if we end up with nice electric buses to fulfill our needs, that would be great. So my next thing here is, I need to double check. I don't see anybody else. Okay. So let's move forward now for Board Bill number 53. Did you have anything else you needed to share, sir? If not, I'm going to go ahead and I will move that we approve Board Bill number 53. And
Second.
It's been
So
moved.
moved. Okay.
It's been moved and second. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro, Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer,
Go back to your house. You know better. Here. Oh my goodness. Come on back.
Alderwoman Boyd, mute yourself.
I'm sorry, Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad,
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Navarro,
Aye.
Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans,
Aye.
Chairwoman Davis,
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye. I was an aye.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Oldenburg, 10 aye votes.
Thank you. We have adopted Board Bill number 53, and we'll pass it with do pass recommendation. Thank you. Now we'll go on to Board Bill number 54. And we have discussed these dollar amounts and the purpose of the funds in our general conversation. Mr. Roach, was there anything else that you needed to share?
No, Madam Chair.
Are there any other questions from committee members? And just please open your mic and ask your question if there is. Hearing no questions, I move that we adopt Board Bill number 54.
I second the previous roll.
It's been moved and second. Any opposition to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill number 54 has been adopted, and we are recommending that there's a do pass recommendation for it. What have I done here? Okay. I thought I had another board bill.
Board Bill 55, Madam
That's what
Chair.
I'm looking at. I'm looking at my stuff here, and I'm reading too fast. Okay, board bill number 55. There's are there any other questions that needed to be asked? Hearing none, I move that we adopt board bill number 55.
Second that and previous rule.
Any objection to previous row? Hearing none, we have now adopted board bill number 55 for a due pass recommendation. I thank you for those three. And Mr. Roach, I'd like to say to you that I actually have a bus stop in front of my home. Many people complain about the noise of a bus. I have no complaints. People respect the bus stop. There's never any trash out here. But I tell you one thing, it is always on time. People walk up to it, like I'm sitting here this morning watching them, and within 2 to 5 minutes, that bus is there. So we appreciate the service. We appreciate those who chose to work under circumstances that they had never experienced before, and we pray never will again. There's a lot for us to communicate on, and most especially this region is hopefully moving in the right direction and working together. Sir, did you have any closing remarks?
No, except, Madam Chair, thank you for your kind comments. I wish I could take credit for them. Really, no, it's the 1,800 operators who go out and do their job every day. I am humbled that they are the ones who show up at 4 a.m. to run those shifts and show up in spite of the fear of COVID, which is certainly very real, but they've continued to do that. And I really thank you so much. I'd love to see all of you on the 29th, by the way, to cut the ribbon for that nice electric bus. So please come, and I'll be sure to send that invite out to the committee. And also thank you to the committee and for your time this morning.
All right, sir, thank you. Okay, let's move on to our next item on the agenda. We have no resolutions before us today. And where are we at? We have listed here committee discussions, and we have we had anticipated getting an update on Board Bill 1, but the sponsor is not available, and the sponsor did not ask me to provide that opportunity, and so we will leave that for hopefully tomorrow. We should have our regular scheduled Ways and Means meeting tomorrow afternoon.
Is it going to be after the board meeting tomorrow?
Yes, I'm hoping that we are done by then.
Okay, so we're gonna have the full board meeting tomorrow, but then a Ways and Means meeting after the full board
It's
meeting.
scheduled for 1. And the last few weeks, because we really don't have a lot on the agenda, we've been getting out pretty fast.
Okay. I just didn't know. I guess I didn't pick up on that.
Yes, sir. And also in this discussion, I just need to mention it because I'm overwhelmed. I've received hundreds and hundreds of emails referring to Board Bill number 1. And I don't know if we should kind of come up with some kind of tally or something, but if you have any idea how many you've received, if you've received any, I kind of like to know. So let's think about that for tomorrow. I'm going to look at mine tonight because I got to erase some of this stuff. It's taking up too much of my space. And I just saw the note from Alderwoman Rice. It is quite interesting because there are a lot of them from out of state, a lot of them from the county and from Illinois. I've even gotten phone calls from friends that I served on the National School Board with, asking me, what are we doing? But there's a lot for us to contemplate. And I hope that we can get to the bottom of it tomorrow. And I'm looking forward to it. So, were there any other comments from committee people? Alderman Boyd?
No, Madam Chair, thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. Alderman Vaccaro?
No, not at all.
Okay. Alderwoman Howard?
I just want to piggyback on what you were talking about, the emails. I've been recently getting emails from my constituents about the board bill number 1. So, you know, like you said, we've been getting them from all over, but most recently are getting them from my constituency. So, okay, thank you. We'll discuss this further tomorrow.
All right. Thank you. Alderwoman Spencer?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Alderwoman Boyd?
No, ma'am, I have no questions.
Okay. Alderman Muhammad?
I have nothing, Madam Chairman. Thank you for your comments about Board Bill number 1.
Okay. Alderwoman Navarro?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Alderwoman Middlebrook?
I have no comments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. And Alderwoman Evans?
I have no questions, just a comment about the emails pertaining to Board Bill 1. You say you want to try and get a tally. What about the ones that we've erased? Just assume, make an assumption as
Yes,
to how
ma'am.
many I've received? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
Excuse me, Chairwoman Davis.
Yes.
There is no meeting schedule, a Ways and Means meeting schedule for tomorrow. I just contact the clerk because I didn't see it on the calendar. So I'm not sure we'll be able to have that meeting tomorrow unless you just continue this meeting.
I'll play it safe and continue this meeting. Oh, shoot. I thought that we had made a decision early on that we would do Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Well, I think because it was the full board meeting, it wasn't scheduled.
Oh, okay.
Off on Friday because of the Juneteenth holiday.
So I guess I need to now go back. This is a little interesting.
Madam Chair?
So yes.
I'm just going to say, I mean, I have a calendar item with a Zoom link and everything from STL TV for tomorrow. But I guess, Sharita, if you're saying it wasn't noticed up, it wasn't noticed up, but I've received communication for it.
Well, I don't know that I have.
Well,
I may have. I don't know. I was really unaware of it. That's all.
Madam Chair, are we still in the 24-hour window?
Yeah. Well, I need to go back and ask what it is that we need to do. And I'm asking the committee. I had it on my calendar, and I guess I just didn't pay attention that it hadn't been sent out as an announcement. And so what do you guys want to do? Because yes, you do have a board meeting tomorrow. Do you want to play it safe and go ahead and have it announced, or would you like to wait till next Wednesday?
Well, the only thing I would comment, if you don't mind, is if you ask the clerk, a lot of times it's about the staff, keeping the staff even longer. A lot of times after the meeting, the staff may have plans to leave town or do something.
Now that's the other problem with this holiday. And if we go over I think it's 4 o'clock, his staff has to start leaving.
You know, I just know
I
that
would suggest we defer it until next week.
Yeah.
I
I'm
agree.
good. I'm
Carol.
good with whatever, but I just wanted to mention it.
Thank you for
might
mentioning
ask the
it.
clerk.
Any other comments, please?
I would like to see it for next Wednesday as well.
Okay.
I
Anyone
opt
else?
for next Wednesday as well.
All right, sir. Other members?
Next Wednesday works for me. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm good either way, but you know, I'm with the group.
Yeah. Next Wednesday works for me, Madam Chair, just for accountability and transparency's sake.
Okay. Thank you. I've heard from everybody, but I saw Alderman Oldenburg come in.
I did. That works for me, Madam Chair. I'm available.
Okay. And Alderwoman Spencer. Okay, she may have hit them. Okay, so we'll request that we have that meeting next Wednesday, please. And I will share that with the sponsor of the bill so that he can be available. Anything else? Any other announcements that need to be made?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Hold on.
Okay.
All members were present at some point, so we don't need to excuse any aldermen. And so now you can.
I reinstate my motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the meeting is adjourned. I thank you all for your time, and I think we all learned more today.